Well, the NAAOP was formed in 1987 with a group of prosthetists who came together and wanted to have an increased government relation advocacy. And of course, we started out trying to get some dollars, some research dollars through the National Institutes of Health. And we were successful at that through the help of late Congressman Claude Pepper. And one of the last pieces of legislation before he passed away that he introduced was the Claude Pepper Act for Amputees, which provided that funding. And of course today we've up to, I believe, around $70 million in funding through the National Institutes of Health for research. And of course we're encouraging folks in the O&P profession to go after those dollars, because research means better patient care. After the success we had in getting some research dollars, we said, let's just focus entirely on government relations. And that's what we've done. Peter Thomas, who is our general counsel, our voice, our face in Washington, D.C., is a double amputee himself, so he understands prosthetics about as good as anybody.
Well, NAAOP is primarily an organization that not only raises awareness of orthotics and prosthetic, educates the orthotic and prosthetic field, but then takes that the messages and the positions of the O&P field and brings them to the public policy decision makers in Washington, both in Congress and in the federal agencies that administer Medicare, Medicaid, and even private insurance. I've been honored to be associated with NAAOP since its inception, and I in fact am a patient, if you will. I was in a car accident in 1974 when I was 10 years old and lost both my legs below the knees. So I'd been exposed to prosthetics from a very personal perspective for now 31 years. And in that time I've seen numerous, 11 or 12 different prosthetists. I've had 14 different sets of limbs. I've essentially become able to play golf again. I've cross-country and downhill skied. I've done all the things that amputees these days are capable of doing. It's really been a godsend, and prosthetics and orthotics, in particular prosthetics, has brought me really back into the mainstream. And all I'm trying to do in a sense is really just give that back, make sure that amputees across the country have the same access to services and the same opportunities that I've been shown throughout my life.
And of course I grew up in a family with two amputees, my Aunt Martha Catherine and my Uncle Charles. One lost a leg in a hunting accident and the other one lost an arm to a drunk driver. So I've always had a special place in my heart for folks who are physically challenged.
NAAOP has been blessed with a number of key leaders that have stepped forward right when we needed them. Throughout our 18 years, we've had some just excellent presidents who have volunteered their leadership and have spent the time necessary to be effective presidents of our organization. Mark DeHardy is our current president, and I have seldom seen in one person such a dedication and a vision of where this field needs to go.
This is a field where people really need help in a very unique way. And I felt that NAAOP had leaders that really looked at the patient, really looked at the profession and said, what's good for the patient is ultimately good for the profession and for the business of O&P. And that's what I liked about NAAOP. They had a more complete focus that flowed from the patient. That's important to me because that's our mission as a company, is to do just that.
Well, we're trying to be an advocate for O&P patients. Of course, we have members that are prosthetists and orthotists. We have some manufacturing members, but we do everything with the bottom line of patient care. And of course, we've been about research, we're about advocacy, about technology and access. It's important that folks who use O&P devices are able to have access to them. So we work on Capitol Hill, we work with CMS, we work with governmental agencies, and I want to tell you, O&P, the challenges ahead are daunting, but I can assure you that the National Association for the Advancement of Orthotics is going to continue to do what it has done for 18 years, and that's put the patient first.
The chief goal and the chief accomplishment, I would say, that NAAOP has really had throughout its 18 years has been to raise awareness of O&P and get people to really understand what O&P really is and why it's so important. The second thing I'd say is that the separation of O&P, and this goes to the awareness issue, making sure that people understand that orthotics and prosthetics is not durable medical equipment, and treating those two fields very differently. And you can see that in the competitive bidding area, in the fee schedule freezes, in a number of different areas, including quality standards, where the government is now treating orthotics and prosthetics very differently, and I might add more favorably, than durable medical equipment. That's a direct result, not just of NAAOP's leadership, but of a number of the O&P organizations promoting the message that orthotics and prosthetics is a special field that deserves recognition and attention.
There's one thing about NAAOP that's really unique to any association in O&P, and that is we are led by a consumer advocate. We represent three unique constituencies: individual clinicians who work for someone else, facility owners, and select manufacturers who work exclusively through the first two. We have all four parts of the equation working hand in glove to make sure the profession prospers because the patient is the focus. We're your voice for professional O&P patient care.
I would say that the principal method that we accomplish NAAOP's goals is to monitor the activity in Washington. The second thing I would say is that in addition to monitoring, we try to do our best to analyze and to promote and get the message out to the field, what exactly is taking place in Washington. We then try to work to analyze and to try to develop strategies to combat or support various proposals, and then work to implement those proposals and those points of view on Capitol Hill to try to achieve our objectives.
But what I do is try to have us to have a strategy, a winning strategy on Capitol Hill, and to convince those at CMS and other federal agencies and the Veterans Administration that we need to put the O&P patient first, and that's what the NAAOP is about. That's what we've done for 18 years, and that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to represent the O&P practitioner, we're going to represent the manufacturers and suppliers, and together we're going to work to provide what's best for the O&P patients.
I've never been involved with an organization that puts more of its membership dollars right where it counts, right on the Hill, doing what's needed for public policy. We literally have no overhead. Our money goes almost 100% to an advocacy agenda. I think that's unique to the profession.
Well, we've been working over the last few months with a number of organizations to kind of put together a coalition that's going to work together. So we will have one voice, and that voice on Capitol Hill will be that voice of Peter Thomas, who's been our general counsel, well respected, probably the most substantive guy I know when it comes to O&P issues.
The field of O&P has got to work together. We're too small, and it's too important to patient care for us to be at cross purposes. The fact is that when Mark DeHardy became an executive committee member of NAAOP, we had a strategic planning session, and ultimately were involved and interested in unifying the field to the maximum extent possible, working with other O&P organizations to the extent that we could, reaching out to other organizations as well, and unifying our message so that we strengthened and leveraged each other's support within the field. There's too few dollars in O&P not to be on the same page with your sister organizations. And NAAOP feels that we've really tried to go the extra mile to work in coalition with others, and we're seeing the fruits of that now.
We'll work with anyone who's willing to see that the patient must come first, and we'll work with no one who doesn't see it that way. And so we're a voice of unity, and we bring people together by not compromising, by not going for the lowest common denominator, but by always standing up for what we think is right. And that's what makes NAAOP a very effective organization.
The legacy of NAAOP will be, I hope, in 15 years from now, better evidence, better education of practitioners, greater and better technology for the O&P consumer, and greater access to care. These four prongs are critical. The goal is that in 15 years, an amputee today who's 10 years old will have the same kinds of opportunities, and in fact, even better opportunities than I had growing up.
I'd like to encourage folks in the O&P profession, those who practice, those who are manufacturers, and individuals who want to participate, who want to be a part of a group who will always put the patient first, to consider joining the NAAOP. I can assure you that we're going to watch the dollars that you put in very closely. We stretch our dollars to the maximum for O&P on Capitol Hill and with the governmental agencies. And the truth is that our task in the future is daunting. and we need the help of those who will join. And we will work very hard, as we have for 18 years, to continue to put patients first and to do all we can for the O&P profession.